There we go. Welcome, everyone, to another LinkedIn Live session with Laura and I. We're excited to be talking about finding a support team that delivers, because not only do we have a lot of experience in that realm, and that's a sweet spot for us, but it's something that we're talking about a lot lately. And the more we dove into why is that happening, the more we discussed it, that it made sense that we'd be hearing much more frequent requests to have these conversations. So looking forward to providing you guys hopefully some useful information that you can leverage internally. And as always, open to additional conversations as we get into it. But to kick this off, my name is Jared Hackbart. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance. As you can tell, I'm excited about this topic, and I'll pass it to Lori to introduce herself.
Yes, I'm excited about this topic too. A little bit of background on me and on Brilliance. I started Brilliance a little more than 20 years ago in 1998. My background's in computer electrical engineering. I went to school at Purdue and ended up through an internship at NASA Johnson Space Center, where I worked as a flight controller for the space shuttle program. It was a really fun experience. I ended up meeting my husband there. He also was a flight controller at NASA. He eventually went to work for Rockwell Automation and had a job promotion to Rockwell's headquarters that led us to Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1998. And I was trying to figure out what could be as cool as space. And so I decided to start a web development company. It seemed like a neat place to be. And with my technical background and my husband's experience at Rockwell, we developed a niche in working in digital commerce, specifically in the B2B space. We have some retail clients, but most of our work is with manufacturers and distributors that are growing and thinking about how to leverage digital commerce as a part of their B2B sales. And so today we're a team of 18. We made the Inc. 5000 list last year. My husband, Dave, left Rockwell 10 years ago, and now he leads our development team. And really excited about this conversation today, because for many of the organizations we're working with, that this idea of ongoing support is a key part of our value add to them. And as Jared kind of referenced, we've been hearing a lot from other people we're talking to in recent months around struggles they're having here and wanting some additional help in that regard. So yeah, I think it makes for a great topic.
Absolutely. So if you want to share where you're from, we'd love to hear. So type it in the chat box. And I'm going to throw in a little curveball here. I'm embracing I feel like I try to temper my excitement for these LinkedIn live sessions, and I'm just not going to do that today. It's beautiful out here in Wisconsin. It's sunny. It's 70 degrees, which is pretty much not 100 degrees anywhere else, I guess. But I'm going to say, if you've worked at somewhere super cool, comparatively to NASA, we'd love to hear that as well. Tell us your story. Want to learn more about people who are today. So, and then one more housekeeping item. If you get a chance, give us a follow on LinkedIn. We really appreciate it. We also are doing our best to continue to create as much content as possibly can. I will call out that I published a new resource this week about compensation, specifically around an e-commerce solution and how that plays into your sales team. We have a lot of other great content out there that Lori herself has created, and various other members of our team and staff. So if you give us a follow, you are first in line to see all that new content get created. All right. If you have questions throughout the conversation that we're having here today, feel free to punch them in the chat box, and we'll do our best to address those as we go through. Let's dive in, Lori. So finding a support team that delivers results.
Yeah.
I mentioned, and you mentioned as well, we're getting a lot of requests in the last several months now around looking for a support plan or looking for someone to support an organization that's already embraced digital and has some presence online. And it makes sense, right? You went through the pandemic, you are now looking to kind of step things up, or you've identified areas for growth. And instead of looking at doing a replatform or finding a new solution, you're looking at building upon what you already have. So that natural progression is to find a support plan or someone that can support you in that essence. I really wanted to start with, we actually don't call our support team the support team. We call them the success team. Can you tell our audience why that is?
Yes. Yeah. Well, they are a success team. And we decided to kind of change our, naming of that team several years back when we really recognized that there's a mindset shift that is important when you think about what a great team looks like that's providing you with this ongoing role. And to think about it less in terms of like bug fixes, which often I think is what people correlate when they hear the word support. They think about, tech support that's good that you call up when something's broken. But you really to think about it more proactively in terms of what steps and strategies can we be implementing to enable our digital commerce, our digital presence, to realize all of the goals and plans that we have for it, to help us continually get better and realize how to add more value to our customers, drive more revenue, drive more to the bottom line of the organization. And so really positioning that team that's supporting your site as a success team versus a support team, I think is helpful for us in terms of like making sure we're focused on the right things, and also can be helpful for customers to really ensure that they're thinking of this in the most proactive way possible.
So I think a natural next step to take this conversation is around when is it time to be looking for your success team. And, I think, we started kind of referencing that we're having frequent conversations these days around this, and we could describe maybe some of those scenarios at a high level and what we've seen. You have your classic example of someone who has an existing account, has an existing support plan with another solution out there or another partner out there. Things aren't going well, or they think things could be going better, or price, you name it. There's probably 100 different scenarios in which you could be. Sorry, everybody. I'm getting blown up on Teams. I'm trying to close it off so that so there's a bunch of different scenarios from that perspective. But if we were really to focus on the internal side, what is happening within that organization that's driving them to need a support plan? When is that time? What does that time look like to you?
Yeah, I think so. From a business perspective, I think what's important to look at is what opportunities are you missing? So there may be, sometimes there are pain points that drive this. So like common pain points I think of are there are things that you have identified that you want to improve on your site, and whatever path you have for getting those things done isn't executing well. So like maybe you have someone internally who you're giving tasks to get things done to improve your site, and it's not happening because they have a lot else on their plate. Or it could be that you have a contractor that you're relying on, but you're not hearing back from them, and things take a lot longer than you expect, or they cost more than you expect, or maybe both, or maybe when they get it done, it's not actually what you thought it was going to be. Like those are some instances of like pain points that can drive, I need something else here that's going to help. But I think another way to frame this is in terms of like, really, is your site realizing the goals that you have for it? And when, I know we'll talk about like envisioning a little bit later, we'll talk about thinking through like growth and like what growth looks like for your site. But do you have a proactive plan in place around improving your current digital presence to, there's so much potential when you look at digital in terms of growing traffic, growing your conversion rate, growing your average order value, continuing to add value to your customers. Do you have, and we'll get to some of these things a little bit later, but do you have like roadmaps in place? Do you have plans in place? And if you don't have, if you don't have people internally that are asking those questions and leading you through those things, I think those are really good opportunities to look to how could you partner with someone from the outside that can help take your site from where it is today to a stronger place.
Perfect segue into where I wanted to take the conversation now around roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Obviously, various organizations are going to have different titles, but I think at a high level, for the most part, you need to have some pretty key roles involved to support a digital solution. For us, the way we staff our success plans, it typically involves your developer, which is a no-brainer, a business analyst, and a project manager. Do you think there are other roles that should be involved? Or maybe part two would be for you, Lori, what roles from the internal organization should be key in supporting a successful approach with a support plan?
Yeah, both really good questions. So I know on our side, so in terms of from a partner side, there are other roles that will get pulled in like on an as needed basis. And I think like as an example, like our UI UX designer will get pulled in when appropriate and when necessary. And also we pull in other partners that we have relationships with when appropriate to give specific feedback on an area of expertise that we'll have some general expertise in, but like we have specialists that we'll bring in to help, with paid marketing, search marketing efforts, things like that. So those are things that I think can be helpful to, I know for us, we really focus on being great at the things that we do internally and partnering with others who are also great at what they do. So when you look for someone who's going to provide you with that ongoing support and success plan, to know that there's someone that has either they internally have the resources or they have a network of resources that they can bring to really help support what you need. From a customer point of view, it's interesting because we work with organizations that really at a variety of different sizes and potentially of different digital maturities. So like it may be an e-commerce manager is a great person for us to have as our point person at a customer. Not every organization has an e-commerce manager in charge of this effort today. So it can vary, sometimes our point person is a developer on the other side who might be overseen by a C-level person. Like it really depends on the size of the organization, or it might be a marketing manager or some other role internally, just depending on how they have responsibilities assigned. I mean, what do you see, Jared? I mean, I didn't even name all of that. Sometimes I think our point of contact in some instances is like a CIO kind of role. It really depends on the organization in terms of who we're connecting with.
Yeah, I think it comes back to something you said earlier around, what does that organization need, or what are their focuses? Because you can take that success plan in various directions. If it is innovation, you probably are looking at someone who's more of an e-commerce manager. If it's bug fixes and just general support, which we obviously you need to do, but we tend to push that you want to also be looking at that innovation side. Regardless, that it is probably someone more technical that has an understanding of the issues, the requirements, and can communicate that effectively with our team. Regardless of who it is, I think one of the best pieces of advice we tend to give our clients is the idea of communication, which seems so simple, and I think it's probably overly played out. But the truth of the matter is, you need to have someone on your team who is going to be that point person, so that there is a continuous stream of communication going between both organizations that are focused on driving success through this partnership. Because that's truly what it comes down to, is having a working partnership that's driving results. Which is also another perfect segue. Who would have thought? Around one of the number one questions you get through the initial, we want a support plan. How do you guys do it? What do you guys do with your support plans? Logically, the next step is how many hours, how much time should we be dedicating towards a support plan? And we had just referenced briefly as well. I mean, I think one of the big differentiators in the number of hours you need on a success plan is how much time you're investing in innovation. We can easily go back through a backlog and tell you exactly how many hours it's going to take to fix certain problems or requirements that you think need some additional support. But really the big delta in a support plan is how much of that time is going towards innovation. I think another piece of how many hours you need really is reliant upon what type of e-commerce solution or digital solution you're leveraging. If it's an enterprise type solution versus something that's more out of the box, obviously you can make an argument for something more out of the box. You probably don't need as much time for bug fixes, whereas an enterprise solution that's got custom features or custom pieces to the build, you might need some more. You will need some more time. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah. So when you think about the number of hours, as you were saying, it really is relative often both to what the software platform is that we're working with, and also like overall, like the revenue volume that you have that you're processing through the site, or the amount of customers that you're serving through the site, and your growth aspirations for it. So like we mentioned before, like there are so many things when we look at roadmaps for companies, and we often, I'll share with companies tips on things they could be doing. It's very common that the list of, strategies, ways you can improve and grow your site is pretty long. So the question is like, what priority do those things have to you? How are those aligned to your overall business goals? And how much are you attempting to accomplish within the next year or 2 years or 3 years? And those things will really drive how much time that you need to have, plan on investing. And those could be, you could be doing some of that work internally. For some of our customers, they'll do some of that, but also you could, may make the choice that you'd rather have an external team do that work for you. And that choice kind of depends on the organization in terms of how much you leverage an external team to support you and how much you work to pull internally.
Yeah. As far as the backlog that you just referenced, there are various ways that you can approach setting one up. Design planning design thinking has something that has been a frequent topic of conversation that we've been having the last couple months now. You want to share a little bit more information about that?
Sure. Yeah. I think, when we think about innovation with respect to digital, it can be helpful to really frame how we come up with ideas and how we're going to test that and really ensure that we're being focused on the user, on the customer, and thinking about how we're going to solve problems and add value, and also making sure that we're defining what things we know, what things we're assuming, what things we think we know, and then coming up with a plan around how we're going to test out the assumption, the things that we think we know, how we're going to get more data to prove out whether we're right or not. And really to kind of think about our overall approach with a more experimental mindset, like how and to be more inclusive of the different voices we're listening to as a part of making a plan, to involve different roles within your company, and also to involve your customers in giving feedback to what's going to help drive additional value on your site. And so I think that, I'm really excited about how design thinking as an approach can help companies to do that, and excited that we have a partner in MB Collab that can help companies facilitate those design thinking workshops, and help them to really put together. What's great about it is with some relatively quick exercises, you can work with a group of people to put together a plan that helps to map out the things that you all collectively agree are the highest priority things to add value to your site, and then to use data that you pull back to help inform how successful that was and what things you want to try next. So versus it being one person's opinion of what you should be doing, you're really coming up with a much more strategic plan that allows your customer and data to really inform your next steps.
So I wanted to touch on a piece around ROI, which for me personally, that I feel like that term can get played out and can annoy people. But we are Gartner clients, and through that partnership, one of the things that has come up frequently in conversations with them when you look at their reports is that the idea of creating value assessment tools is something that organizations are looking to leverage in their decision-making process for specifically next steps with digital and what they're looking to do. And so some time ago, we actually had created one around digital growth, around ROI, an ROI calculator in an essence. And really why I wanted to bring this up was to help people think through the decision of investing in a support plan. So really it comes back to looking at like, what are you currently generating through your e-commerce site and how you can be doing that. How can you be improving upon that? And that's what this tool is meant to do. Do you want to speak any further towards this tool, or are there any things that you would call out about how you could leverage this tool within someone's process?
Yeah. So what's great about this tool is that you can come into it and fill in your numbers for what your revenue was last year online and offline, and fill in some other indicators in terms of how much traffic you have coming to your site, your average order value. And by doing that, it gives you kind of a way of picturing like what your growth potential could be. Like if you improve your the amount of traffic to your site, if you improve your conversion rate, how are you going to, and you can kind of drag those bars over, and you can see, what's going to be the impact to your bottom line through those numbers. So then, one of the things you can do is kind of say, at first it's just kind of fun to play with. I find this fun to play with, to like plug in your numbers and get a sense of how much additional profit could we be generating if we got this much more traffic, or if we improved our average order value, our conversion rate. But then also those are things that you can be talking to your success team about. Like, here are some goals we have. We want to improve. What ideas might you have, team, for how we improve our average order value or how we improve our conversion rate? And those are things, that we've helped other companies with, and that we are excited, to collaborate with. And I know, in general, those are the types of things and conversations I think you should be having.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was hoping that we would take this is, ultimately through a support plan, you can leverage this tool to say, I want to focus in on my conversion rate. I want to focus in on my average order value. Support team, success team, what are steps we can take to improve that? And then create that backlog so that you can go back and focus in on tasks or features or requirements that will allow you to achieve some of these goals that you've been able to set in place through that. If you're interested in this tool or learning more about this tool, I'll punch it in the chat box. You can also go to brillianceweb.com, and it's located at the very top under See Your Digital Growth Potential. Get that off the screen here. So we kind of hinted towards this, and we were, I guess, hovering all around. I think it encompasses the whole conversation, but really the idea of successful execution of business objectives comes down to the quality of support. And how do you find that quality support? Obviously, we believe that the people we've hired within Brilliance we put them through tests. We ensure that we're bringing on people onto our team that we know can deliver value for our customers. Are there any other tips, or maybe for people looking to bring people on internally, Lori, that you would give for how you add quality support and not fall into a trap where you're maybe bringing on someone or a team that isn't necessarily going to fit the bill?
Yeah. Probably we don't have enough time. we do have some resources. We have a resource on our website around hiring developers that's really informative. I would say, when you're building out your own team, it's really helpful if you can find someone with past experience. The challenge in this space is that past experience supporting like an e-commerce site. The challenge is this industry is so in demand. I know for many of our clients, to find someone with past experience in something like this can be really challenging, especially depending on where they're locating. It may be challenging, which is one of the reasons that in some instances that they'll partner with us because we have people that have experience working on other sites, and then pair that with a developer on their side who may not have as much specific experience in this, but has, related experience. And in some ways, we're helping to mentor and train and support their person that they have internally, which, and I think about, but your question really, Jared, was around quality. And, I think about responsiveness. So communication, I know we talked about communication, but it's really important. One of, technical excellence is important, and you want technical skill, and that's certainly something we test for, but also it's important to set good expectations around like how you want, when you want to hear from people, and what your expectations are around like how long they're going to take on a task. So those are things that we have systems internally that we set up estimates for how long tasks will take. We expect communication back if things are going to take longer than that. And those are things that you'll want to ensure that you have some methods to manage. And then also ensuring that you create an environment that welcomes feedback if people think you're headed in the wrong direction. And that's something that we have a value at Brilliance around trust through healthy conflict, where we really believe that if in supporting people in voicing a dissenting opinion, we believe that helps make us better. And so I think that's an important aspect of quality support. You don't want a team that just does what they're asked, even if they think there's a reason it's a bad idea. You want them to be able to voice to you, I'll do that if that's really what you want, but here's concerns I have with it. Here's where I think this could hurt you that maybe you're not seeing. And so those are some of the things I think of when I think about quality. What else do you think of, Jared, in terms of things we've heard from people when they're experiencing pain? Yeah.
I actually would like to go back to something you had said in there about co-development. That is something that we get asked about frequently. Organizations that want someone, to your point, be able to work side by side with our team who's experienced on the platform so they can do a knowledge transfer and really learn from us. A lot of times we're hearing from these prospects or customers that this is not something that people really, or other organizations out there, want to be doing because it adds time. It can make things more complicated, or just the individuals aren't comfortable supporting that initiative. Mm-hmm. Why is it that, ever since I've been at Brilliance, it's always been something that we have embraced and you've kind of pushed, and it goes back to another one of our values about being learners and continuous education. But why is that for you that we believe in co-development?
Well, I think it's to your point, Jared, I think it's partly our values. I think it's also partly because the majority of our team is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that we're, US based. So I think for some companies where the majority of their developers may be offshore, that's not as easy for them to provide that kind of co-development or mentoring role. And when you think about developing internal teams for organizations that don't have them, like when we hire developers and onboard them, one of the really key aspects to that is them having other developers that they can learn from that know that. So yeah, to your point, I think it is a need that exists out there, and there aren't necessarily a lot of places that have that model to support.
Right, and I can understand their perspective at times as well. Having us, gone through several of these situations, there are some. It's a different process than your standard.
It is. It's a different process. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot to learn in that arena to make sure it's successful. So it's something that's valuable, but certainly needs to be managed. I wouldn't say carefully, but appropriately. I know we're running short on time, and we've kind of covered this at a very high level throughout the conversation, but I wanted to go back and touch on process, because process is incredibly important to our organization, and the idea of the appropriate process or a recommendation for people listening today on how they can leverage our process for support. Do you want to talk through, I know you had a chance to connect with the support team for a little bit. You want to discuss that at a high level?
Yeah. So we build a backlog of tasks with our customers. In many instances, our customers move to our success team after having us implement a project where we'll have replatformed them from one platform to another to one of the platforms that we work with to optimize commerce or optimize B2B commerce or big commerce. And so once they're on their new platform, we often from that project will end up with tasks that came up during that project that they would like to do next, and we'll have a backlog of tasks as a starting point. Sometimes we'll gain success plan customers who we didn't do that initial replatform for, but they're just at a point where they know they need some additional assistance, and they're looking to gain our team's expertise and approach to that. And so in that case, we will audit the site and provide input, say, here are some things we think you should do. And also they usually come to it with a list of things they already know they want. So it's usually some combination of those two. We'll meet and put together that backlog, and we track it in a project management tool that we call, that is called Maven Link. That enables us to both manage the tasks and organize them, but also our developers and team tracks their time so that we can track time against our estimates within that tool. And so once that backlog's created, our PM, our project manager, and our business analyst, they go through and they estimate everything in that backlog. And then customers have an opportunity to prioritize, which is usually the best. It's best to prioritize when you know how long things are going to take. So because something may have a different priority depending on how long it's going to take to accomplish. And so then based on both the priorities and how, like the size of the success plan in terms of how many hours a month they've contracted with us to work, we'll build out a plan for when we're going to get it done. We put together a roadmap that at least is looking out a few months, if not much further. And then, our PMs and BAs work through the tasks and what the requirements are and work with our developers on getting those accomplished. And then, we have a process of, moving that to UAT, to a user acceptance testing environment where customers are reviewing, giving their sign off. And then usually rollouts happen once a month to production, although it could be more frequently depending on the size of the customer's site. And of course, we have meetings with customers for status reviews, updates, hours reports. Just coming back to that idea that communication is so important as a part of that. And so, when you think about creating how you're going to support your existing site, whether that's internal or with an external partner, think about what those processes are, what that communication is really going to enable you to know that you're on track, that things are getting done on the timeline that you expect it to.
Great. Well, with that being said, we are a little bit over, but hopefully
we are a little
was valuable for all of you in attendance here today. If you're interested in learning more about how we manage our success plans, or you just want to have a general conversation, or if you're looking for an introduction, feel free to reach out to both Lori or myself. You can reach us here on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to set that up. Otherwise, thank you all for your time, and we'll have some new content from a video perspective, hopefully in the next, I know we've got a couple of exploration tech sessions coming up, as well as I'm sure another LinkedIn Live or two. So thank you everyone for your time, and have a great weekend. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Jared.